Well, my name is Dario. I know someone of you for the Impact2 project, especially. I have quickly a question. You are people that collaborate with ENAT inside ENAT, or you are a member of ENAT through other association organization in Europe or in the world?
I think I can answer that because everyone is a member of another organization or independent. So we're a mixture, yes.
Okay, it was just a curiosity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, just a little introduction on myself. I am Dario Imperatore, Ph.D. in Legal and Social Sciences at the University of Camerino, Italy. I had the opportunity during the 3 years of studies to attend, to spend for 5 months at the Center of Disability Law and Policy in Galway. I am a data protection officer in Italy, also a health and safety manager. I work especially for schools and the Center of Rehabilitation for Children with Autism. And I collaborated for ENAT in the Impact2 project that is over. I'm so happy to cover this role for ENAT because it means for me a chance to continue the friendship with all of you. The first slide I prepared is the same of the last slide. I did it because I think that the list you can see now maybe tell you nothing or more or less nothing. I hope that at the end of this brief presentation, some of these points could be more clear for you, or you could have the interest in future to come back on it. Also, asking me, sending me mail, and I will be happy to help you to give you some answers about GDPR issue. So, you know, you can understand. My English is not very fluent, so I prefer to fulfill the slide, but not too much, to help me in the presentation, and also because in the future you can open this slide on your PC and maybe find some good information. So what ENAT will do to be compliant with the GDPR? We will draft an organization chart of ENAT related to the GDPR. We will do a list of processing data. We will make a list of which processing data ENAT for its project, its job, do every day. We will make an impact assessment related to this processing data, or maybe it's better to say data processing. Publication online of some documents for ensuring the right of the data subject. And this is one of the principles of the GDPR, maybe the most important. This is because we talk about data protection. We must inform our data subjects. We will draft a series of statements on the basis of any single data processing in order to inform data subjects. And we hope never we will manage situation of data breach. And first of all, we will create a data breach policy to help you, all of you, but also our data subject, to know how to do what to do in case of data breach. a little history about privacy, recent privacy law in Europe. It's important for sure the EU Data Protection Directive 1995 that introduced then the GDPR. We can say that the GDPR is like a song of this directive. We can say that the interest of the European Union was to create uniformity in the issue of privacy extended for all European member states. So, you know, the directive give you an idea or tell you which call you have to write. The regulation is mandatory. So that directive was a formal adoption of principles, contains comprehensive data protection of personal information, put clear restriction around data transfers, especially outside the European Union, and give privacy rules or clarify them. With the European Regulation 679 of 2016, we have a set of rules that define guidelines for processing of personal data of natural persons. And these natural persons could be customers, employees of suppliers, that are all of them defined data subjects. GDPR covers guidelines for companies like ours on what is expected from them when they process personal data of EU citizens. Also, focus on rights of data subjects and give power to the so-named supervisory authority. There are one of them for each member state. GDPR goals to protect, first of all, to protect the freedom and rights of EU citizens and to enable free movement of personal data across the EU states. So the first is to see, we can say GDPR, the EU say, you have to do what I say. But at the same time, give us, company, for example, ENAT, the tool to work. You can work with the data if you respect some principles. This is the line, this is the philosophy. The objective of GDPR is to make organizations follow accountability and transparency rather than the supervisory authority having to ask for records. This is another important point of view. It applies to all companies around the world that process data of EU residents, and not applies if processing data is purely a personal or household activity, and if processing is for the purpose of prevention of criminal offenses. Then I want to go fast on it. There are some international standards that are useful to be sure to work in the correct way, and at the same time to be compliant also with the GDPR. It's not mandatory for us to follow these standards like ISO 27001 or 29100. And they for sure have like the guideline. We can be inspired from them, by them, but it's not mandatory. For sure, if we work following GDPR, we will discover that we are also compliant with that or some part of that standards. Now we start to see some key terms and to define them. Then we will give more space to some of them in order to understand how to work. In GDPR language, a natural person is termed data subject. I told you before. Personal data is any information that can be used even directly or indirectly to identify natural persons. For example, ID number, IP address, email, home address, also a car code. We must not confuse personal data with categories, special categories of data that we generally known as sensitive data. In the environment where I work, often people say sensitive data and is not true, because personal data is the general data. As I told you before, sensitive data are special categories of the personal data. They reveal race or ethnic origin, religious beliefs, health, sexuality, biometric information, political opinions, criminal history, etc., etc. Or not. Why we have to understand the difference between them? Because all of them is important, and we have to protect personal data as the sensitive data. The difference is on how much they are able to create damages, injuries, if there is a data breach. So if the data breach is on one of these sensitive data, the injuries are bigger. So the consequences for ENAT are bigger. So we have to be very, we must pay attention on sensitive data. Processing, another key term. Any operation that is performed on personal data. It includes any action like collecting, storing, using, reading, recording, sending, combining, and also deleting. This is this is the last one, because the data has like a natural life, and they will die one day. But there are so many companies that forget this last kind of processing, data processing. ENAT will make a list of its operations. It's easy, simple or more simple Excels, in which we will write all topologies of data processing of ENAT, the categories of its users, the list of processors, etc., etc. And we will update, I suggest, every 6 months or once per year. We will update this Excel. If one day the supervisory authority, I suppose of Belgium, because ENAT is based in Belgium, but could happen also where in Europe, will ask us, let me see how you manage the data of your data subjects. One of the tool for us to prove our compliance is show him this list. Not only, okay, it's one of the opportunity. Profiling, because it's important. Sorry, the GDPR doesn't tell us how to be compliant. He just says us, you have to be compliant to these principles. Then we can choose the way. Profiling. Any automated operation that is performed on personal data to analyze or predict certain aspects of a natural person, economic situation, behaviors, etc., etc. I don't think ENAT does it, but one day it could happen. Why? Because of a project, for example, in which we are involved in an analysis of this kind. Okay, now we can see some roles, starting from controller or processor. A controller determines the purpose and means of the processing of personal data. ENAT is a controller for its users, for its own activities. I think there are no joint controllers of ENAT, because ENAT is a body based in Belgium. Then there are some collaborators like us in different states, or there are associations or other organizations that are partner of ENATs, but no, I suppose, no joint controllers. These partners, for sure, are processors of ENAT. The processor processes personal data on behalf of the other controller. For example, I suppose eWork is an ENAT processor. Also, ENAT can be a processor of other controllers because of the project in which it is involved as a partner. Recipient, natural person, legal entity or public body to which the personal data are disclosed in accordance with the law. Hotels in Italy is like that. An hotel that sends personal data of its client to the public body in order to register their presence there. A DPO, who is a DPO, is a leadership role required by GDPR, responsible of GDPR compliance. Responsible in the sense that is responsible toward ENAT. ENAT is always the first responsible toward the users, the data subjects. It's important to say that if the DPO tell wrong solution, give wrong solutions to manage the data to the ENAT, is responsible toward the ENAT when it is necessary. When the organization is a public authority, it's not our situation, or engages in large-scale processing of personal or sensitive data. The GDPR doesn't tell us the number of this scale. We can consider that 2,000 of processing typologies of data for a school is a large scale. In a community of 300 people, 400 people of families and scholars. For a telephone company is nothing. So you can understand. I suppose ENAT is in this definition, large scale in the sense of its data processing for its project extended in Europe or in the world. So I suppose DPO is necessary for it. So a part of public bodies, the choice is based on the scale of personal data that is processed. Go on. Supervisory authority is a public authority in every EU country responsible for monitoring compliance with the GDPR. Often it is the people, citizens, companies asking some clarification on because it happened on lack of consistency of the GDPR, and they take time to draft a guideline and then publish on their own website. This is the website of the authority in Belgium. Oh, two interesting terms: pseudonymization and anonymization. Very difficult to repeat. So the pseudonymization is a technique of replacing one or more attributes of personal data to make identification of a natural person difficult. The key for the replacement of the data is stored to re-identify the original data. Anonymization is stronger because it is a technique that makes the identification of a natural person impossible, and it is an irreversible process. So the GDPR doesn't consider it a personal data. If the data is anonymized, it is not a personal data. Okay, role of the controller. When we are a controller, which is our role? The role of ENAT must be accountable, for example, to take action regarding GDPR and being in a condition to explain the compliance with the GDPR to data subjects and also to the authority of supervisor, as and when required. The role of the processor to ensure that the conditions specified in the data processing agreement signed with the controller are always met, and also that the obligations stated in the GDPR for sure are met. The role of the DPO, it is a guide. He guides the company towards compliance with the GDPR and advises the right measures to management and staff of the company. Also, if users have some, for example, they think that we are not compliant, they can write to the DPO that he will give them a good answer. The role of the supervisor authority, I've told you before, we can go on, we have not too much time. So GDPR states 6 types of purposes about processing personal data. First of all, performance of a contractual agreement. It includes all processing required for execution of the contract, signed between the data subject and the controller. For example, ENAT and its collaborators, we are data subjects for ENAT. We have a contractual relationship, any kind of contractual relationship. We give ENAT our data, and ENAT manage this data, and ENAT must protect us. The base of this activity, the base of the processing data of ENAT about our data is the contract. Then the compliance with the legal obligation. It includes all processing for fulfillment of legal obligation of controller. No examples now. All situations in which ENAT must manage data because the law asks him to do it. Fulfillment of a legitimate interest. It includes all processing required for execution of the contracts linked to the basic activity of the controller. For example, processing personal data to produce sales reports for management, or introduce a video camera in the office to protect the assets of the company. Is ENAT legitimate interest. Another base is the processing in a public interest. It includes all processing required for fulfillment of the public interest. Generally applies to the governmental or public sector organization, or the authorities, public bodies, to ensure protection to the country and the citizens. The last two, processing for the protection of a vital interest. You can understand, the example is checking an accident victim's wallet for the purpose of registering him in the hospital, or to call the family. The last one, consent of the data subject, is the last one, but is also the most important sometimes, because it's not the only one. It's another mistake when people think that always they should give the consent to the processing data. And now you can see there are other 5 bases. If there is no space for a legitimate purpose, a clear and explicit consent must be requested and recorded. The data subject must be allowed the option to withdraw consent. This is the big difference with the processing for legitimate interest of the controller. For example, before sending a newsletter, ENAT should ask its user if they want to receive it or not. Okay, now we can see principles, GDPR principles. First of all, accountability. That means lawfulness, fairness, transparency, how to be compliant. Do not perform processing that is not legitimate. All personal data processing should be fair, informing data subject in an open and transparent manner. The data subject should be always sufficiently informed regarding processing of their personal data. Always means that if I inform you now, it's not normal that if I continue to process your data in the next 5 years, it's impossible that I don't inform you again. I have to do it periodically. GDPR lists certain principles that must be followed by the companies. Other 2 options. Purpose limitation. Processing of data must be limited to the legitimate purpose for which the personal data was originally collected. Data minimization is important, very important. Data minimization is important for ENAT. When collecting data, only the personal data absolutely required for the purpose should be collected. Why it's important for ENAT? Because, okay, it's important in order to protect the data subject, but it's important for the ENAT because if we ask more data, we have to work more to protect them. If we ask data that are not useful for our job, for the basis, the reason because we ask that data, I told you before 6 reasons, 6 bases, is why I'm asking that data. For example, if it's important for me to know who are you, name and surname, and to have your email because I have to send you any information, why I have to ask you which is your payment, your RAL, how much is your salary? Do you understand me? No? It's a stupid example, but happen very often that the forum online, for example, asks several data that are not important for the scope, for the goals, for that activity. Then accuracy or personal data must be accurate and kept up to date. Data subject must have the opportunity to update their personal data. Integrity and confidentiality. The controller must ensure appropriate measures of security, including protection against unauthorized and unlawful processing. The controller must ensure the data cannot be modified by an unauthorized person. In this sense, every single operator in ENAT could subscribe a letter of appointment. I suggest it. It's not mandatory in the GDPR, but is a way to demonstrate we are compliant with this kind of principle. Principles are important because when we will talk about data breach, and the data breach is based on a violation of one of these principles. Then, storage limitation. Personal data should be retained only when necessary. Personal data should be deleted once the purpose has been fulfilled in line with applicable law. Sometimes the controller must retain data for a longer period after the relationship with the data subject. It depends on the national law, for example, for fiscality. After 30, 40 years of relationship with my company, I retire, but my data, some of them are retained by the company for other 10 years, for example, for the pensione. Oddio, Anna, per favore aiutami, pensione in inglese, to pay me the retired period. I hope you understand me. So, as we said before, data subject must be sufficiently informed to ensure fair and transparent processing of personal data. To demonstrate transparency, it is recommended that company publish privacy notices. We can do it. Something there is already on the ENAT website, I saw it. So, privacy notice or statement. A privacy notice or statement describes key aspects of the personal data of data subject and the processing of that data performed by the company. So there is not one single privacy notice forever. There is a privacy notice for every single kind of activity. And that privacy notice periodically could be modified. With a privacy notice, the data subject is aware about what happens to their personal data they provide to the company. General aspects. Which processing is done and why? Key content topics. A private notice should be reviewed regularly, I told you. DPO must be also consulted about the publication of privacy notice, and she provides her approval if they were written by an operator of the company. I am available to write myself if you want. Must be simple, clear, plain language is used without technical or legal jargon. So it's incredible. GDPR asks us to be simple because the data subject is not a lawyer. Could happen, but most of them are not lawyers. Information is provided in a concise manner. Information provided is easy to understand, easy to be found by subjects without having to search. Content. What personal data is collected by the company and why? If sensitive data is collected, that should also be elaborated. What are the processing activities that are performed on personal data and why? Are data transfers involved? If yes, who are the third parties that receive data and why? How are data subject access rights respected? and how can a data subject exercise this right. For example, in this case, we can insert in the website of ENAT a link with a form they can fulfill and send to the DPO when and if they think they are violated. So it is a way to avoid that that user contact directly the supervisory authority. We can try to resolve the problem in our home. Who can be contacted? Okay, for more information, how is personal data protected? If the company has a privacy policy, it's good to mention it in the privacy notice. Okay. Data breach. Well, data breach is a security incident in which unauthorized parties gain access to sensitive data or confidential information, including personal data or corporate data. So personal data, bank account numbers, or customer data, or corporate data like customer data records, intellectual property, etc., etc. The terms data breach and breach are often used interchangeably with cyber attack, but not all cyber attacks are data breaches, and not all data breaches are cyber attacks. Data breaches include only those security breaches in which the confidentiality of data is compromised. It's important, confidentiality. So, for example, a distributed denial of service attack that overwhelms a website is not a data breach, but a ransomware attack that looks up a company's customer data and threatens to sell it if a ransom is not paid. It is a data breach. So is the physical theft of hard drives, thumb drives, or even paper files containing sensitive information. A data breach occurs when the data for which as ENAT, an organization is responsible, suffers a security incident resulting in a breach of confidentiality. First, availability. Second, integrity. Third, one of them. If that occurs, and it is likely that the breach poses a risk to an individual's rights and freedoms, ENAT has to notify the supervisory authority without undue delay and at latest within 72 hours after having become aware of the breach. If the company is a data possessor, it must notify every data breach to the data controller. If the data breach poses a high risk to those individuals affected, then they should also be informed unless there are effective technical and organizational protection measures that have been put in place, or other measures that ensure the risk is no longer likely to materialize. So when a bank or someone else sends to you an email to inform you about the data breach, it means that there is a real problem because they was not able to avoid the injuries. As an organization, it is vital to implement appropriate technical and organizational measures to avoid possible data breach. Examples. The data of a textile company's employees have been disclosed. The data included each employee's personal address, family composition, monthly salary, etc. In that case, the textile company must inform the supervisory authority of the breach, since personal data includes sensitive data, such as self-data. The company must notify the employees, and the company's employer must notify the employees as well. Maybe there was another example, no? Okay, I want to conclude with the first slide, which we should draft an organization chart of ENAT related to the GDPR. Who is the DPO, who collaborate for ENAT, and in this collaboration, based on, for example, a contractual agreement, which data processing managed, etc., etc. A list of processing data, which processing data ENAT does because of its projects or its activities on the website, its own activities, we can list it. An impact assessment, it means that on the basis of the processing data of ENAT and the risk related to the processing data, and how big is the potential injuries for the users, the data subject, we will have an idea of risk, and after be aware of which risk we have, we can put in place some measures to protect data. In this way, the impact is lower, the risk is lower, and it's important to demonstrate that the ENAT is compliant with the GDPR, this kind of activity. Publication online of some document for ensuring the right of data subject, as I told you before, information, privacy information, statements, or form for the users to ask to change their data or to inform us that, in their opinion, there is a data breach or a potential data breach. It's better to say potential. We have to see if there is a data breach. All of them are potential data breach. Not all of them are a real data breach. Then write these privacy statements and conduct a policy to manage well the data breach that we hope never happen. Okay, now I finished, and 10 minutes if you want to tell me your impression, to ask me something, and I will give you maybe I have already my mail. You can in the next day, week's notes, write me and ask me something about this presentation, or something or the processing data related to your projects. I'm here for you, and I'm happy to be and proud to be here.
Okay, thank you very much, Dario. And I think you had a last. That's the one. Who is that guy?
Me with the glasses.
Looking slim. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, and I think you've given us a very good overview. I've learned a lot already, and I still have a few questions though, and maybe I can just ask a few things, or some things to clear up some misunderstandings, because when we hear about big companies like Microsoft and others who've been found guilty of a data breach, and they are fined huge amounts of money based on their turnover and so on. I wonder if there are any rules about the size of the company that has to apply GDPR. I mean, is there a minimum size, or a size? Are we? You say quite clearly that we should have this GDPR. I'm sure you're right, but I'm just wondering if we are. I mean, we're at the small end of the scale, so maybe there won't be so much attention paid to us in general. And here we are, five years after the implementation should have been in place. We're just talking about it now, so we've not been good at following the law, perhaps.
Oh, the law. We have to follow the law about the principles of GDPR. There is no major sides about this. That rule is in order to have or not a DPO. But if you are a small company, so no DPO for you, but it does not mean that we can operate against the GDPR.
Okay.
So at the same time, is not, who can say that? Who can say ENAT you are or you are not involved in that kind of requirements? Okay, a judge. If there is an injury, if someone go to the judge against us, or as the authority, supervisory authority, because he is convinced that we ENAT create a data breach against his data. So in that case, the authority, the judge or the supervisory authority will decide if we are or we are not. But we, in any case, work as we are. There are no real difference. If I am a DPO of ENAT, we can or we cannot inform the supervisory authority of Belgium that I am the ENAT DPO. Is an ENAT decision. Okay, so it's not mandatory. It's an opportunity. If inside a project that is required that ENAT must have a DPO, we can say ENAT have a DPO. This is an opportunity. I repeat, it's not mandatory.
Okay, I'll just say another thing is that we've signed a contract with the ONTHE Foundation, which is one of our members actually, to run the project on Accessible EU. And actually in that contract and all the experts, national experts contracts, they also have to sign a declaration about conformance with the GDPR, because all the national experts and ENAT will receive information about the participants who attend conferences and meetings and even online meetings. So that puts us in a position of having this personal information, although it's just the name, the email address, and the organization and the country, only those 4 things. But because of that, there are pages and pages and pages in the annex of the contract on how to handle the GDPR, who is responsible. The European Commission is the data controller for this, or no, they are the ones responsible. Yes, they're the ones responsible.
We are a processor.
Yes, and we are the processors for this. So this already put us in a situation of thinking, oh, are we supposed to know something when we're the data processors, because we weren't offered any training like this, but still we have the responsibility of being a data processor. So it's very good to know what our obligations are now in this case. So that was just one example. Another question that comes to me quite often is people write to us saying, typically students, and they say, we're doing a survey about people with disabilities. Can we put our survey questionnaire on your website or on your Facebook group so that they can collect data? And so far, I've been saying to them, yes, we can do it, but it's totally up to them. I mean, they just use the channel to provide the information, and how they handle the data and all that kind of thing, we're not involved. So maybe that's a gray area. I don't know. What do you say to that?
It's a gray area for sure. But we can say, first of all, first consideration, sensitive data. Okay, yeah. You remember when I give you the difference. So it's we have to pay attention. Secondly, research reason. It's good because it helps us to say there are no commercial interest. So in this case, it's important for ENAT to be sure that who is asking us this chance is operating for research activity. Because if it's not like that, user that give them their sensitive data will ask us, why you told me they were operating for a research, and now I see my face, every spot. Hey, it happens in Atla. Do you remember working for Atla? It happens to one of our guy in an activity. They made him a picture for him because of social activity, and then his mother found him in an airport for a spot. It's incredible.
Yes,
so we are interested to be sure that who is asking us work for a university, etc., etc., and we have to well inform the user about the scope of this kind of request. We have information. We have to do info. We have to ask the students to give us all the elements of his work, because when we will publish that survey on our website, we have to put them this kind of information. We have to say how he will protect their data. So we will ask the students, you not a Bible, you have to write some points on which is clear why you are asking the data, how you will, for example, the data will be anonymized.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to demonstrate the tools. In this way, in this sense, you say a gray zone. Yes, so we are ethically involved in this way.
We don't actually, just to be clear, we don't authorize the survey. We just say you can pass it through our communication.
Yes, but so we can't host everyone.
That's right. We don't host the questionnaires. No.
Yes, but we not host. Everyone asks us to be hosted. Just who ensure us that is for good activities.
Okay, I see Magnus has a hand up. Question, Magnus?
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying, really, if we are putting up the link, so if you want to do the survey, then you come into that company that's doing the survey, and they need to have the information on the GDPR. That's what I've done before. So if you're doing that, then it's no problem. Right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we don't get involved. We don't get involved with that side of it.
No. So no.
I would say I would see one example, because it's different if in our website we have a link to his website, the website of the student or the university. Go there to make the survey, or it's different if the survey is on our website, because in that case we receive the date and we transfer the date to the students. So we are involved.
Then we would be, yes. Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. I have maybe one or two more questions. Just something about, yes. So I'm thinking about all this data. We do have a website called pantu.org, which is a collection of suppliers who offer accessible tourism services. This information is offered by them. They can use this website free of charge, and they provide the information about their accessible services for users with different kinds of disabilities or access requirements. And I'm just, what we've said on this website is that it's the suppliers themselves who own the data. And I think that's rather important. I mean, they are the ones who are responsible for that data, not ENAT. So I'm just thinking, in the case of the personal data, which GDPR is very much about the citizens' personal data, who owns the data actually? Is it the person themselves, or is it the website that's collected their data?
So is that about pound 2?
Maybe, well, it reminded me of this question because we had to be quite clear to the suppliers that they own the data. It's not our data, it's their data. So we don't have any responsibility for their data. If they say that they have a hotel with 5.
So you are asking me if the information that they publish on our website are true or not?
If it's true,
good or bad information
we have a disclaimer. We have a disclaimer on the site saying that people must check the information themselves, that this is not recommended or in any way, we're not responsible for any accident, loss or damage, etc.
Okay, first of all, I don't see any data violation. I don't see in this case. But secondly, we should clearly inform the Panto users that we are not responsible of the information. We just host a space for them, and it could be good for us when an hotel registers itself on our Panto website to give us a declaration of like we received from the EU Commission, but not the Bible. Just say, I have the responsibility of what I will write there, and ENAT is not responsible for me.
Okay,
something like that. I don't think that ENAT could be responsible, but maybe the disclaimer you received is not about privacy. Maybe it's about something else.
It's more technical, yes. So I'd like to thank you for the presentation, and definitely we will come back to your checklists.
But I ask you if you can share with me a situation like this, I can have more time to understand better and give you a better solution or answer for them. Okay. Okay.
Anyway, I'm very happy that you've given us this broad picture, this orientation about what the GDPR is for and who it's for and how we respond to it. I think it's much clearer for everyone. So we are also in your hands. So we will work with you to improve the level of knowledge with all the staff as well of ENAT. Thank you.
GDPR, just the last thing, is strange. If you don't think to it, you have no problem. If you start to think it, there is a world open in front of you, and it seems there are a lot of problems, but it's not like that. It's easy because we have principles. We must be oriented to respect that principles. If we do that, it's okay. Then situation like who give claims, disclaimer, I don't know in English, this give us this will happen forever. It's normal that someone work in this way, but we are serene. I'm tired. We must be sure that we work compliant with GDPR.
Fine.
We have no problem in this sense.
Yeah. Okay.
And to be on the safe side, we'll always ask your advice.
Sorry.
And to be on the safe side, we will always ask your advice.
Okay, for sure. If you last thing, if you write me, it's simple for me to take time to answer you by an email. I have time to think the right words. And the Grammarly, so
okay.
Thank you very much, Dario.
My English is not
no, we
so good.
We got the message. It's loud and clear. Thank you very much for your
Bye.
Thank you,
Dario. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.
Ciao.